Well, an interesting first segment there, my conversation with Matt DePerno. Let me bring in now the former elections director for the state of Michigan to kind of square off against some of what we just heard, and that's Chris Thomas, who joins us now. Chris, I really appreciate your time. Let's just start with, I guess, his basic point that he believes that there is nothing illegal about a citizen, someone who is not an election official, having in their possession or access to a voting tabulator. Does that strike you as right?
It does not strike me as right. The security of our elections are predicated on the equipment being secure and not available to any outside forces for manipulation. The idea that people end up picking up tabulators, in many cases, it sounds like they sort of hoodwink the clerks into thinking there was some real formal investigation when there was not. And then working on these tabulators to do what, who knows, is certainly not anything that people would generally think is acceptable or that the law would condone.
Have you ever come across anything like this before, with tabulators falling into the hands of sort of an everyday citizen?
Never. I mean, it would be unheard of. I think it's unfortunate, frankly, that these election officials gave them up as easily as they appear to have. I look at the sheriff doing his investigation and I think, well, if you're doing an investigation properly, you would have a subpoena in order, or a court order in order to take a machine and then do work on it. Yeah. And that's not happened. And it's not happened because he couldn't convince a judge to give him a subpoena.
Yeah. His contentions about what happened in Antrim County, which I still think it's hilarious that we're talking about Antrim County, which of course was a state that was going to go overwhelmingly in favor of President Trump. They caught the problem early on that the software hadn't been adjusted, and once it did, everything fell in line with exactly what we would expect the kind of results to be in Antrim County. His claim that the security seals were broken on the tabulators in Antrim County, or a tabulator. What do you make of that?
Well, I'm not aware of that. I have not heard that. Those seals, this is after the election, would be appropriate for clerks to go into that after the election. So I'm really not sure what he's talking about.
Because he seemed to suggest that it was broken on election night or during the election rather than after.
Yeah, I doubt he would even know what happened on election day or the day after. I mean, that would surprise me.
Well, that would speak to its own kind of problem then, somebody seeing that or having access to a tabulator on election day who shouldn't be there.
I don't think that would necessarily say that.
Okay, I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Right, I mean, the fact that that seal is broken, it might be a seal where the stick was in that has the election results that they take out afterwards. There's another security seal. I don't think that means anything. And the reality of Antrim County is that we have paper ballots in this state, and that's the official record. And those ballots were hand counted and came up with essentially the same result. Yet, no, these folks can't let go of it, that there was something untoward. There was a mistake. It happened. And it was properly corrected. They didn't try to cover it up. They were very forthcoming with the problem, and they fixed it.
For people like you, Chris, who help run these elections, the idea that these elections were somehow rigged or fraudulent, I assume that comes across as quite an insult to you, correct?
It does, and it's an insult to the local election officials who really do the heavy lift. Our system is so decentralized. The idea of a conspiracy garnering over 154,000 votes for a candidate is pretty ridiculous. And Senator McBroom's Senate committee report made that clear. And I think that's all pretty much in the books. And it's something that I think folks are a little delusional that hang on to this Again, their burden is to prove fraud happened. It's not the burden of the election official to prove it didn't happen.
Proving a negative is always tough work. Chris Thomas, as always, I appreciate having you on the program and so appreciate your expertise. Thanks very much for the time.
Thank you. Pleasure to be with you.
You bet. Chris Thomas, the former elections director for Michigan. We'll be back with more on Flashpoint right after this.